So one of my favorite things about Dungeons and Dragons is world building. I say one of, it very well might be honestly my favorite thing. It's why I love DMing. I love creating worlds. I love creating people and places and, well, things. And part of that, well, there's a lot of parts to that. I mean, there's the obvious. Everyone who starts world building first generally doodles on a piece of paper and draws a map, and you have your locations. You're like, well, the elves are going to live over here, and the dwarves are going to live over there, and dragons and mountains and stuff, you know? Yeah, that's rough, but, like, everything comes from somewhere. But anyway, the longer you do it, the more minutia you start getting into. Like, things like, well, what do these people believe? Religion is a big thing in human history, so why wouldn't it be in your fantasy worlds? What do these people eat? It makes sense that different geographical and cultural entities would have different cuisines based on what's available and based on shared experience. But one of my favorites that I like to mess with every so often is the idea of holidays. And with Thanksgiving coming up really soon, why don't we look into that a little bit? So different cultures are probably going to have different holidays for different reasons. There are some things that, at least on the world we all live in, seem to pop up a lot. Things focusing around the winter solstice, things focusing around the harvest and the summer solstice, you know, those long days, that long night. People recognize those things, if for no other reason than they affect us more than just, well, yes, as a marking of the passage of time, but also that longest night afterwards, the days start to get longer. That means that soon people are going to be able to plant again, and planting means food, and people are going to be able to eat fresh food. Even if you look at something like, say, Oktoberfest, this isn't a big religious holiday like so many of them tend to be. It's, most people, like, they think Oktoberfest, and they generally think beer and sausage, which is cool. I'm down with beer and sausage. But there's a reason that it happens. The beers served at Oktoberfest are called Marzen. And the idea behind Marzen is that there was a time in Germany that beer was, like a time of the year, that beer was illegal to brew. And it was mostly because it got too hot during the summer to brew beer without worrying about contamination. The temperature would get hot enough that it would just be ready for all kinds of bad little things to get in there, all kinds of little microbes and everything, and the beer would spoil, and no one wanted that. So they actually had regulation to make sure that didn't happen. And Marzen were the beers that were brewed in March, right before this happened. And they were enjoyed during Oktoberfest because they were basically the last of the old beers that were cellared. They were generally lagered in caves, and they would last longer than a lot of beers. And because I think, don't quote me on this, I think because they had more malt, which doesn't necessarily make sense, because hops are generally preservative, but whatever the case. Come Oktoberfest, in late September, they would finish them all off, because it was finally cool enough to brew more beer. So it's this celebration of not just what they had, that being the Marzen, but what they would have, which is a bunch of fresh beer. So, holidays, there's all kinds of reasons. So today, what I wanted to do was work on a little holiday in the world of Samsaris, and I kind of wanted to pattern it, not pattern it after Thanksgiving, but make it a harvest holiday, and I'm going to make it a harvest holiday for the dwarves of my world. Now, the dwarves of my world generally live in the frozen north, to varying degrees. The farther north you go, obviously, the colder it gets. So let's not get too crazy here, because I do like it being tied into the harvest. So we're going to go with the way they celebrate it in the southern kingdoms. So, and this is all new. I'm kind of making this up on the spot here. So let's see. I don't like naming things, so I like to get kind of a little bit of what it is under my belt before I start naming things. So dwarves of the north. Let's see. It's going to be a little colder than normal, and since we were just talking beer, that kind of gives me an idea. What grows well in colder weather? Barley. And rye, for that instance. A lot of these things are used as cover crops in areas where it gets cold, and you can grow them some places year-round. Like I'm in Portland, you can grow these things year-round, and then till them under the soil come summer. But anyway, so let's make a celebration based around the planting of malt. So it's going to take a while for that malt to mature, so maybe we're not drinking the fresh beer, but maybe we're going kind of an Oktoberfest route, and we are drinking the older beer. So we have dwarves, and we have them drinking old beer. Now, there's other things that are going to be celebratory here as well. Let's say there's going to be a festival of some sort, because, well, drinking beer in public is cooler than drinking beer in private, I guess. So there's going to be a festival, and that festival is going to involve, well, it's dwarves. Let's get a little cliche, because I like my dwarves to feel at least a little bit like dwarves. Things like feats of strength. Oh, not fears of strength. That's a whole different festival. I think that's a drow thing. Feats of strength. Well, let's have a drinking contest, because 'tis the reason for the season, right? So we're gonna have a drinking contest. I swear I can spell. And let's see, what else do we want to have? That gives us a bit to go off of, but let's make this bigger than it is. Let's say it coincided in the past with maybe the installation of a Dwarven High King. Dwarven High King. And let's say this is creating some Samceres history here, which is a neat thing about holidays, because they do that. They don't exist in a vacuum. So it's an installation of a Dwarven High King, which involved a battle between two sides. It was a Dwarven civil war. Battle between two sides of dwarves. So let's name that Dwarven High King real quick. I want him to be known for bringing the clans together. So Rugar Clantai. I totally reserve the right to change that. I either love that name or hate it. I'm not exactly sure yet. So Rugar Clantai. So here's what I'm envisioning. There was this battle between these two dwarven sides. Maybe it was Rugar and another dwarf who were both vying for the position of the High King. Maybe these were the last group of dwarves that didn't want to be united into an empire. I mean, history is written by the victors. The guy's celebrated now, but in the time, who knows what Rugar did to unite the clans. It's not always pretty. If it was, having High King wouldn't be a big deal, because they just have one. Like no one had to fight or lose anything. So, current day, though, which is an important thing for this holiday, I'm thinking maybe they reenact this battle. All the dwarves get onto two sides, and it's a cute thing. It's not a savage thing, right? All the dwarves get into two sides. One of the great dwarven heroes of the year always gets to play Rugar, and leads the dwarves on one side, and then another dwarf on the other side gets to play the adversary. And let's name that adversary real quick. We're going to name that adversary Hurgen Stonewarden. And Hurgen Stonewarden gets to lead the other side. And so we don't want them to, actually fight, right? We don't want them all rushing each other and bashing their heads in, and, combat hurts. You don't want to kill your fellow farmer in a celebration. So they probably get drunk, and let's go with something absurd. So let's bring it back to the beer a little bit, right? Part of the celebration is about the beer. So maybe both sides have a few kegs, like maybe 3 kegs per side, and it's a kind of the capture the flag type situation. So these dwarves, who have been drinking all day, rush each other and try and capture the kegs and bring them back to the other side. And you can see how this could go wrong, or right, I guess, depending if you're a spectator or involved in it. Kegs are going to get dropped, glasses are going to get shattered, and someone's probably going to get beamed over the head once or twice, but nothing serious. But it'd be quite the spectator event, as all the other dwarves line up on the sidelines and just watch their loved ones, their wives, their husbands, their eldest sons and daughters just go at each other to get these heavy kegs back to the other side, rolling them, dragging them. Maybe a particularly strong dwarf actually just hefts one up overhead, and that's something to see. Now, why is all this important? This is cool. This is some cool world building. But if you have a party of adventurers going through the region at this time, this might be something they run into, or even better yet, get to participate in. And if we're going like with Dungeons and Dragons, just think of all the little checks they can make of dexterity and athletics, and maybe even some charisma-based checks involved too, as they try and deceive other people to try and get to kegs around them, or stealth checks as they try and sneak up behind and come around the other side. You know what I mean? So it could be a really fun event to get involved in, and there could be various other facets too. Of course, there's going to be drinking. Bring on the constitution checks. People are going to be in a jovial mood. Let's get some feasting going on. Let's make some deals as well. The merchants, I'm sure, are going to be in a great mood and looking to move some of last season's beer, or making promises for the new batch that's going to be out once this malt all gets harvested. So there's a lot of things you could do there. This could be an event. It could also be an adventure hook or adventure hooks. There could be all kinds of things that spring from this. Or maybe whoever the party is looking for is at this event, hidden amongst a crowd, or maybe hidden in one of those barrels, you know, that it could lead into all kinds of things. It could be an answer, it could be a question. So yeah, world building. Let's not forget the holidays. There's a lot of things you could do there. I mean, a good place to start is the holidays that you may already celebrate, or other cultures celebrate. But get weird, you know? Who's to know what a fantasy world might celebrate? Like, what do a bunch of lizard men do when it's the darkest night? Or what about a bunch of Dragonborn when the moon is full? Do they do something special to take note of that? Or maybe there's a culture that doesn't celebrate holidays, and that's what's distinct about them. Talk to your player characters. See what they want to come up with. Maybe there's certain holidays they celebrate, and it could be interesting to see what do you do about that when you're far from home where no one celebrates this holiday or even knows what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it spurred some ideas for you. If you would like to contribute a bit and keep these videos going, go to patreon.com/crumblingkeep and feel free to donate to us monthly. That'd be pretty cool. And if you want to learn more about Samceris, where this holiday is going to be taking place, you can also find some links on crumblingkeep.com, or check out our podcast, Crumbling Keep Presents the Isles of Samceris. We're recording Season 2 now and quite excited about it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.